Hello and welcome to today's show. This is Confessions of a Global Changemaker, and I am not going to disappoint you today. We have the amazing Lisa Clifford, who has been inspiring me for years and years and years. I think, Lisa, we go back about 12 years or something, do we?
At least 12 years. Yeah.
It is at least 12 years. Now, this Wonder Woman of WoW has not only inspired me, but has gone on to inspire many thousands of others. And I can't wait to delve into her success strategies so that you can take them and implement them in your life and business as well. Lisa, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me, darling.
Well, Lisa, I want to get straight into the confession side of things, because you and I, gosh, we've gone back such a long way and we've had so many confessions together.
When you've shared a tent.
Yes. Oftentimes when you've been climbing mountains and like peeing off track and all kinds of stuff. We won't go there though. We haven't been there yet on the show anyway. You know, there's always room for that to happen, I'm sure. But the real thing about supporting and helping others to achieve the success that they deserve to have, you know, is there like there's something that you see in others where you have a sense? Is it intuitive? Like how do you work? Oh, I don't know why, but the sound has just gone. Can you hear me okay? Guys and girls watching now, can you? Oh, there you are. Got it.
We're all good. I like human to human. Yes, I think most people don't know how brilliant they are. We've got all these layers and layers of conditioning, as I know you know, and we're living within that, and we're creating a reality that's aligned with it. So then it becomes our belief, and you know, as it goes round. And when you give people an experience that they see for themselves just what some of their potential is, they can't unknow it, and they also can't stop gravitating towards it. So anyone that shows up for a firewalk, I know that they know somewhere deep inside that they have more. They just don't know how to access it. Yeah. But I do think it's a little bit of intuition. I mean, you can watch somebody and you can see by the way that they're speaking or by the way that they're moving that they're holding themselves back. And usually it's fear. But what I've learned recently is the fear of being disappointed. Being disappointed, I have found, is the number one fear that holds people back.
Wow.
When you really, yeah, I mean, I've worked with so many sales teams and you know, people that come on the firewalks and workshops that I hear, but I don't want to set my goal or my outcome or my experience too big in case I'm disappointed. It's not even the fear of failing. It's the fear of the feeling of the disappointment that follows. So then when we break down what is disappointment, and I can't actually describe it. It's not like, well, I end up with 8 fingers instead of, oh, there are only 8. I've got an extra one. It's not like you see something physical from being disappointed and they go into trying to explain it. You can't actually explain it. And yet it's the one thing that people are moving around or shrinking goals in order to avoid.
Interesting.
That's a very long answer.
No, but I mean, it is interesting. And I think there is an intuition inside each of us, isn't there? We know that there is something greater. We know when there's something bigger. We know when there is something calling us to do something greater, bigger, higher purpose. You know, I'm finding, especially in the times that we're in right now, that the choice of going to work or going into the office has been taken away. And therefore it's forcing people almost to reevaluate. Well, hang on, was I happy doing that before anyway? And well, what would make me happy? And oh, hang on, this feeling that I've got inside me, what am I meant to do with that? Yeah. Are you finding that there's a lot of people that are kind of emerging right now?
Yeah, I'm hearing from a lot of people I know that I want something else for my life, but I haven't worked out what it is. And so this period of silence or stillness or lack of busyness has allowed people, probably for the first time in a long time, hears something or feels something within them that they're trying to, what is that? And I think that's their purpose, you know, going from a whisper to a bit more of a voice and a voice, and thinking, I feel that I want more or need to do more or contribute more. And because normally they wouldn't hear it. Normally we wouldn't hear that because we're just so busy, and quite often that busyness, it gives us the comfort of sleepwalking, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that is. It's literally day walking, dream walking, I guess. You know, and I've been there, and I totally know what that feels like. You know, and I remember a time when I was deeply, deeply unhappy in a relationship that I was in, and Lisa and I were climbing a mountain, like you do. Believe it or not, I used to be mega super fit, and we used to go climbing mountains every weekend, pretty much, wasn't it? We'd be up a mountain. And you know, when I lived up north, where Lisa lives up there now, and of course I moved then down south, so we were too far away from each other to continue.
You even moved to another country.
I did move to another country. It made it a slightly bit more difficult, even still. But I remember when we were walking up mountains, and you know, having a good old chin wag, and you kind of you just get everything out, don't you? And I love the fact that when you're doing something like that, you're consciously moving forward, and therefore each step you take, your body's focusing on that, and so all of this stuff that was running can start to bubble up. And I remember being deeply unhappy in my relationship, and I remember you saying to me, Sammy, why don't you change the label on it? And I said, what do you mean by that? And you said, well, you know, you've got this fiance label, it's like a tag, why don't you just change it from fiance to friend? And it was such a shift, and it was only just a few little words, but that it's almost sometimes having someone label it to take the label from it. To call it is. Wow. And you know, and it enabled me to really step into my power with that relationship, but to transition that relationship in a really graceful way. And I love that about the way that you work. It's very graceful in the way that you move people to action, but boy, do you get results. Like this woman, right? She's all soft and fluffy on the outside, but she's a freaking tiger, I tell you. She's a tiger. You must see that a lot, people labeling themselves, almost like branding the relationship or branding themselves, isn't it? And that's not actually who they are, or that's not what the relationship's supposed to be.
I tell you what is a great image of that is when so what happens is we put the label on, and then we conform to the label, and we have all the feelings and therefore the experiences to the label. So woe betide we've got that flipping label wrong, because there's a lot pending, there's a lot hanging on that label. And as you know, and you've done it many times with me, that we do the arrow break, where we put the point of the arrow in the throat, and we breathe to 3, and bang, we move through it. And the arrow represents our limiting beliefs. We give it a purpose, and that's where the power is in the purpose. But so many times, and it's a great opportunity for people to check in with that learning about labels, because so many times people go, oh, it hurts. And I say jokingly, which I don't know if it's ever helpful or unhelpful, I don't know. I say, if I stabbed you with a fork, is that hurt the same kind of hurt as that? Oh, no. Is it pain that you're feeling with it there, or is it a discomfort or something that's unfamiliar? And quite often people label the unfamiliar as painful instead of unfamiliar, because this is just unfamiliar. And because we're seeking comfort, aren't we? We're seeking confirmation. We're seeking reassurance in familiarity. I think a lot of the time, you know, when we first meet somebody, we're searching for, where are we the same? So I can feel comfortable with you, because we want to feel comfortable. And so in the search for comfort, if it's not comfort, therefore we label it with pain, where the opposite of comfort is discomfort. And so it then helps me teach people about just how often do we give things in our life the wrong label, and then we have all of the consequences as a result of the label we gave it. And you know that. Look at me pointing. You've got me on one. You know that.
I love a good soapbox.
We put the wrong brand, the wrong wrapper on something, and everybody has experience according to the wrapper. And it's the same when we label our emotions or our thoughts and feelings. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, you've run fire walking events for so many thousands of people now. I remember my first fire walking event with you.
It was my
Gosh,
first one.
what is that? That has to be
September 2008. I can
oh my
tell you.
God, you actually know when it was.
Yeah, I think I can even remember the dates. I think it was something like the 21st of September 2008 because it was my first ever fire walk. I'd only just trained the month before.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember. And we were in this room, and Lisa was doing this amazing like mindset work before we got out to do the fire. I mean, we did pretty much a full day just working on us before you even put us anywhere near the fire. And we went through this whole like transformation. And then we went through the fire, and I didn't even believe that anything like that was possible back then. I'd never done anything like that. If somebody had said to me, "You're going to walk on fire," I'd be like, "What?" No. But you had every single person in that group. There had to be like 40 or 50 of us, and we all went across the fire. And by the end of that day, just in one day, the sense of community was just incredible. And even though we walked in as strangers, everybody walked out feeling like we'd known each other our whole lives. And, you know, your experience that you gave me really, like I've done about 7 fire walks now, and none of them have compared to yours. That very first fire walk, I walked across the fire even with Tony Robbins at his Unleashed with the Power Within about 5 years ago. I was like, this is nothing compared to Lisa's one. I walked across fire in the Galapagos Islands. We did the very first fire walk on the documentary that was on a few years ago, and we did it on the Galapagos, and I got through the fire. I was like, still wasn't as good as Lisa. So it's like, so to hear that was your first fire walk, I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
It's probably helpful that I didn't tell you, but yeah, you'll only ever have one opportunity to walk on fire the first time.
Yeah.
And so that's just such an honor that because in that moment you are reshaping a belief forever.
Yeah.
And also proving that you can reshape others. So and also you're not walking over it going cool moss, cool moss, cool moss.
Yeah.
You are going over holding your own power and being focused totally in alignment with what matters to you. Because we set goals, didn't we, about what do you really want? It was quite an immersion. It was an immersive experience into what you want. And when you come to the fire, it's almost, God, the fire's nothing compared to what we just done in that room. Because it does take courage, doesn't it, to go into your heart and think, what do I really want in life? Because apparently I need to know this to walk on fire. So I better wake up to what do I really want.
Yeah.
And so quite often people don't think about it, in your experiences, don't think, but what do I really want? I mean, what is it that I really want? We can often say, well, I'd like a yacht, or I'd like this, but what's really inside me? What was I put on this planet to do or be, or the impact to make? And then when you come to the fire and you know that the fire is there to manifest it, to empower it. But then and that's quite the spiritual side of the training that I've had. Because otherwise, if you just walk over it, all you can say is, I've walked on fire, and it's not really a duplicatable template.
Yeah.
And so, but then afterwards, when you've walked on it, you kind of look at yourself, don't you? Because I have to take myself back to the first time I did it. And you look at yourself and think, who am I? I didn't know I was her. And nobody else knows what that feels like unless they're those people in that room in the way that you described. But then when you reshape that belief, fire burns. And we know it does because it has burnt us in the past. But there are conditions in which when I raise who I am, my mind and my heart, when I raise that, those are the circumstances that fire doesn't burn, because it does. You can walk over the same fire, the same feet, with intention and purpose, not burn your feet, drop that, simply do the action, same coal, same feet, same action, burn your feet. So what is that about?
I mean, that is so true as you're saying that, because when we did the one in Galapagos, the instructors didn't take us through the mindset process that you did. And I was quite confident. There were some people that said they weren't going to do it, and that was up to them. It was completely up to them. So some people didn't. There was a group of about 30 of us, including the film crew. And then, there was me. I'm like, well, I've walked on fire 6 times already. I'm good. I can do this. And so there were all these people, and they did a bit of a tribal ceremony before we went across the fire. In fact, in my sizzle reel on the documentary sizzle reel, you see me walk across the fire on that. But I walked across and it burned just a tiny little bit, but there were people that went across that fire that had serious 3rd-degree burns. Like, there were some of the film crew that walked across that fire that night, and they ended up in hospital. And there were people that couldn't walk for a couple of days because they'd really burned their feet. And yet there were others of us who just walked straight across. And I don't know whether it was because I believed, well, I've done this before, that fire's not going to burn me, it's all good, or, because it was the same fire, wasn't it? It was the same fire. Yes. We all did the same thing. And I hadn't thought about it until you said that.
I think what happened for you is that your mind and your body and your heart had already a template of what you do is you raise your vibration. And I know you know all about vibration. You raise your vibration to match the vibration of the fire you walk over. So already, I reckon for you, you'll have aligned unconsciously with it, right, especially done it a few times. And also you have a deep respect for it. When you don't respect the fire, when you just treat it as an action, you're doing something to it, it's likely to give you a bite on the bum. Sorry, that's a dog bite.
It's amazing though, isn't it? It's like you say, the fire is the same. It's the belief and your mindset as you're walking across it, which I guess it's not really about how fast you walk across it either. Literally, it's your mind and how, and isn't that the same? Like, life's going to bite you if you go into life, or you go into a meeting, or you go into creating a mini course, or going online, or doing a live or a webinar. If you go into any of those with those limiting beliefs, you're going to carry them in with you. Just as you do across the fire, I'm guessing.
Just even if you go into it with thinking, I know these are the right actions, so I'm just going to do these set of actions and they'll equal this result. That to me is the equivalent to, I'm just going to you walk over the coals. You just walk over the coals, and then you get your feet kissed, or 3rd-degree burns. But before you go into the meeting, or before you do your seminar, if you take time to think about, what outcome do I want for these people? Who are the benefactors of the gift I'm bringing? How do I see them being successful? How do I see them having more joy, or more love, or healing, or success in their life? And that's what I do, is I hold that. So that's the equivalent to, before I walk on fire, I align myself, align my heart, my mind, and I walk over. And so when I'm running a seminar, it is more than, I've got some good stuff to say, and I hope you're going to listen.
Yeah.
I might even have one fancy slide. I can't ever manage more than one. And that should do the work. It's all about what you hold in your heart that gets the results. It's not about, you can, as you know, you can fluff anything up and people will fall more in love with you because they know the spirit that you're doing it with. You can be perfect and say everything absolutely right and be technically correct. It's a bit like my mind's being congruent and being technically correct, but not make an impact because you're not connecting heart with heart.
Spirit isn't there,
Yeah. So the fire is an amazing teacher, And the one thing about the fire that I adore is we are all equal. There is no hierarchy. There's no special dispensation. You bring your heart, your mind, and you have the most wonderful experience. You always get the experience you most need. If you need the 3-degree burns for time to reflect, time to look at how you're thinking, then you get them.
Yeah. And do you find that, when somebody does get burned, there's something going on in their life where they're actually getting burned somewhere else, but in it's almost, I can't think of the words right now, but it's like the fire is a metaphor as such, but actually in life it's really happening. Do you ever find that it's a mirror like that?
Well, it definitely is a mirror, but I really know when you shouldn't tempt fate. But people, people can get fire kisses, and I have a belief, and it's just my belief. It's not necessarily a fact that when we get a fire kiss, and this is my training as well, with, because I trained with the mother of firewalking, Peggy Dillon, who brought it to the westernized culture, that when you get a fire kiss, that is the fire sending you intense healing to the part of you that you most need. Often. And so then I have a foot chart. I say it carefully because I've not said it carefully in the past. It was popular the time I got it wrong once. And the different areas on your feet, it's a reflexology chart. The different areas on your feet represent the organs, and the organs represent an emotion. So often at the end of my firewalks, people are desperate to look at the foot chart. And then I say to them, you know, the bit that you've had healed doesn't mean that you were all of this. As somebody might have a feeling of being abandoned, feeling lonely, left out. And I say, this doesn't mean you are those things. It just means intense healing has been sent, whatever might be resonating there for you. And then, but then they say, oh no, I'm definitely that. And so the magic is when people look at those charts at the end, they're kind of hoping that they've got a hotspot somewhere because they want that stuff healed. Yeah. They want that block to be unblocked, and they want to be, and quite often it is related to the goal that they've just set. So they might have set a goal about being in love, and yet they've got a feeling of they've had a fire kiss that's connected to rejection or something like that. And so it's pretty magical. I mean, how often do you have people that want to get a fire kiss? But they're and I've had lots, but I've had them proportionately to my alignment.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because, I mean, you don't just work with the fire. I was going to say walk with the fire, which you do. You don't just work with the fire. There's a huge mindset shift that you also work with. So what is the would you say? I mean, you already talked about the fear of, what did you say? Not making the result or something?
Disappointment,
that's right. So there's the fear of disappointment, whereas of course we hear often about the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of judgment, fear of visibility, fear of being visible, fear of being seen. There's all these fears, yet that fear of not cutting the grade or not getting what you want from something, the disappointment of something, I can really resonate with that. I can really understand that would be an enormous fear. How's that showing up for people in their lives then? I mean, you've worked with sales teams all over the world. Like, how does that show up for them?
Massive. The fear of disappointment shows up in the most damaging way for their own joy and success. So what happens is people start to set goals in avoidance of being disappointed. So they shrink their goals. So I'll notice that somebody will have this, oh no. And then you almost visibly in front, they'll have this, they'll allow themselves for a moment to think, I would love, because that's what I'm really pushing for. What do you love? What would you really love? And then they'll start to think about it, and then they'll start to minimize it down. Yeah, and then sometimes they do it with their sales targets. You know, if you could achieve anything in this company, if something would tell you just how amazing you are, what would that number be? And what if we set that number and then you decided how you're going to go about it? Rather than, if I keep doing these actions, what growth can I expect? Yeah. If I keep believing in the same things I did believe in, what growth can I expect? So I see people say, well, I could do that, but that's not realistic, and I'll be disappointed, and I'll disappoint my boss. So let's do something else. And I just think, what if you set it? What if you set it to yourself? And what if you tried to go for it? What thinking would you enjoy having if you did that? And I've had people that have embraced it and achieved amazing results. And you know, it's for me when I'm with them to see that happening, hold it and hold them in. Yeah. What does he really want? Don't let go of that, because it feels so unfamiliar to think about what do you really want. Yeah. Because we're brought up with so many beliefs, aren't we? Keep your feet on the ground. Higher you go, the further you fall. No such thing as a free lunch. Easy come, easy go. And so we kind of live within that restriction and that limitation. And then we start to use that template for deciding the experiences we want in life.
Oh, wow.
And it takes a coach to sit and say, whoa, you were going somewhere then. Keep going with it. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Just me and you. And then I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
But
you have got all your feet to the fire.
once they've walked on the fire with their goal in mind, achieving that goal is inevitable.
Yeah.
But without the fire, because you remember, I'm saying, right, what do we want the fire to manifest? And if it could fuel anything for you, what would you hope it to fuel?
Yeah.
And so it makes your mind think in a way that it's not normally prompted to do. I mean, you could sit with the workbook and think, here's my next question. We could fill it in. But when you know there's a fire waiting for you to walk on, all of you shows up in a way that you think you need it all. It is. And that's why I love the fire. But that fear of disappointment reaches people and affects people in the worst way, in them shrinking.
I can imagine that must be like an enormous thing, especially for entrepreneurs and business owners right now, where we're going through the shift and the pivot. I think this month of this year, of this decade, of this time in history, is probably going to be known as the pivot, like Edwardian times and Elizabethan times is going to be the pivot times, where people are having to think differently. They can't afford to think the same as they did, because they literally they'll not even get what they got before. That we've got to shift, we've got to transition into whatever new world it is that we want to create. And the thought actually of that, I've never heard of the fear of disappointment. That's one I've never heard of, but actually I can see how that's going to resonate with a lot of people. The fear of disappointment of creating this new world. There's people already saying it, I wonder what world we're going to go back to. And people are saying, oh, well, I hope it's not the one we went back to before. And then in the next breath, they're saying, oh, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. It's, you can't have both things in the same sentence.
But it's that clutching for familiarity, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some big shifts, some big belief shifts for a lot of people.
I think so. And I think, when you think about the fear of disappointment, you remember when you were a kid, and maybe even today, because your mum and dad are still with us, aren't they?
Yes.
Yes. Do you remember the one?
Oh, your voice has just gone.
It's intermittently muted.
There we go.
It's intermittently.
It's digging in.
It's saying, shut up.
Are you really hearing us? That's what it's saying.
Oh, no, wrong label. I put the wrong label on. Oh, there's Bonnie. So, what was I saying? Very disappointing.
We were talking about the world that we get to go back into, and if people are saying, "Oh, I can't wait for it to get back to normal," so we're talking.
I know what I was saying. Do you remember? Would you rather have been told off or your mum or dad saying to you, "You've disappointed me"?
Oh God, no.
That's
the worst thing in the world.
Exactly, and that's where it originates from. You don't want to disappoint me. You don't want to disappoint your father. You don't want to disappoint. And so we behaved in a way to avoid disappointing the people that we most wanted to be proud of us. And so, I mean, that's my kind of take on it, because I was surprised that the fear of disappointment came up more than anything else in all of the work that I did. Unbelievable.
That's really quite shocking, because that's just a fear that I've never. Those of you on the call right now, have you ever heard of somebody talking about the fear of disappointment? Because it's just not something that's ever. But this is it's brilliant, because it's making me question, how many times did I hold back or not go for what I wanted, thinking that it was the fear of failure, but actually it's the fear of disappointment. Because I mean, I have very, very high expectations, and I have super extraordinary, unmanageable expectations of myself as well. And I think that's like an entrepreneurial curse. How many things you didn't do, but you forget about all the stuff you actually did. All the things you can be proud of, all the impact that you did actually make. I think it's something we all go through. Now, in the interest of time, I can't believe that we're already halfway through the interview. Let's talk about your confession, because I love to get really down into, you know, a time in your life where you've done something in your business where you would just never ever do it that way again. Or if somebody were coming up to an issue like that, you know, how would you manage that differently this time so that we can learn from that experience?
Oh, right. So I've got a couple, and one's not that long ago, but it's long enough ago that I've had time to make sure I don't do it and to put things into place. But the first one is, I remember when I first became self-employed, and my background was I was part of a sales team. I was quite a popular member of the sales team, sold a group of hotels. I was always at, you know, big sales events, but also conferences. And then I was going to be self-employed, working completely by myself.
Mm.
And I had, I'd done all my coach training, my hypnosis training as well back then, my business growth coach training. And I'd got a little contract with a group of leisure clubs where I could franchise out to other coaches a business model that, I say franchise, I use that word very loosely. Mm-hmm. A business model, marketing, branding, and a sales approach so that they could have a shop window.
Yeah.
So I had this idea. I got this group of leisure clubs to say, yes, you can operate out of our clubs. That'd be great. And I was at the Tony Robbins event, which was in the October, and I had just left the company I was working for. And in the queue was a lady I knew with another lady. And I got friendly with this other lady a few weeks later, and I just said, why don't you be my business partner? Barely knew her. She seemed nice. She was nice. And yeah, I mean, I know. With today's Lisa, what a blooming nightmare. Because I'm so giving in the same way you are, but we have to learn. We have to learn that it's also a curse for other people, not just ourselves. But I just said, I've got this idea. I put the money in. I also had the time. It was also my relationship, my idea, my concept, my content. And she was working 4 days a week on a daily rate for her husband's company. She had 1 day a week to offer to the business. She was a 50-50 business partner. I think my lack of self-belief, although people say, Lisa's got loads of self-belief. Well, yeah, that's what people without self-belief want you to believe. Otherwise, you wouldn't book us. You wouldn't work with us. So we are very convincing. My lack of self-belief at the time made me cling on to this girl to be my friend in business, basically. And then she started very soon. Well, she wasn't putting the work in. I was doing it all. I was getting all the results, but at least I had the comfort of somebody working with me. And then she would say, oh, my husband's got this idea that we should do. And then her husband was coming up with these ideas. And I thought, you know, this is time for me to shed this skin. So I walked away, and my clients came with me. I said, I can stay, or I can honor what I'm doing. And they came with me. But that whole concept actually was quite short-lived, because what I learned at the time, and this is going back 15 years, possibly nearly 16 years, what I realized at the time was anybody that needed you to tell them A, B, C of how to promote their coaching business lacked confidence in actually doing it. You know, it isn't about telling people what to do. It's about bringing it out of them as coaches would do. So that was a big mistake. You know, I basically bought a friend.
Yeah.
The company in my business.
And it would have been a lot more cost effective for you just to have hired a coach.
Exactly, which I've done ever since. And then I think I've got 3 really. The second one is a mistake I made for 3 years. I like hitting myself with a hammer on my thumb. Is I started working with a company, coaching the leadership team, and I loved them. I loved the managing director. But because it was a very it wasn't a very well paid contract. It was a reasonably paid contract, but it also meant that I didn't need other business.
Right.
You know, that is a horrific trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a few things wrong. The first one is I massively over delivered because I liked them and I wanted them to be successful, and because I could, and but the consequence of over delivering were a couple of bad ones. One was what was that price on your contract all about if you're now giving us all of this? And the other one was over familiarity. You know, familiarity is a big thing, isn't it? Not over familiarity on my part, but theirs. So they stopped seeing me as the coach that would move them, stretch them. They started seeing me as one of the team, which then meant that I lost the, let's just call it magic for want of a better word, the magic to hold them in their brilliance. So that was all entirely my fault, not theirs, mine. I created all of that. And the lesson learned there is I do what I say I'm going to do for people. And it's a very fair exchange. In fact, they will be, when they're in a relationship with me, they will be massively successful. So it's more than a fair exchange.
Yeah.
And in order not to devalue the relationship on any level, either through value in the relationship or value in terms of the agreement, we just stick to it. And then we all know where we stand. And then the big danger, which I know you can hear falling off a cliff, is I didn't look for any other business. I didn't market myself. I didn't go networking. And you knew me from the beginning from networking.
Yes. Yeah. You were a prolific networker.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved it for a number of reasons. I loved it for the connection. And also I loved helping people, but I also got my supplies from networking.
Yeah.
All of my supplies were from networking. But I'll never forget you giving me your branded business card and it smelled, and you went into the psychology of colour and smell and texture. And you must have been brilliant at it because all these years later I've remembered.
So, I know. I'm a bit sad about coming away from that side of things because obviously, you know, as I built the business and then we sold the business in 2013 and you know, now I just focus on the strategy. And it was quite interesting because last week in the Brand Builders Club, I ran a competition basically for one brand builder to win me working on their product with them to get it ready to launch. And I had 7 brand builders pitch to me via video and I loved them all. And so I just said, I'm just going to work with all of you. And so last week I just was flat out working with all these brand builders, designing their customer journeys and their maps and the branding of it and everything. And I got to the end of last week and I did think to myself, wow, that was so fulfilling. I haven't done that for years. And yet when you met me that very first time, that was all I did day in, day out. I was focused on tactile branding was something I became really well known for. And yet I haven't touched anything like that for years.
You loved it. You had a real passion for it. But yeah. I stopped my networking because I was busy giving my time for nothing to a company that was no longer valuing me. I was trapped in that. And
you feel good and you can feel the calling. But then again, like you're such a person of integrity and loyalty and grace that I think those things can also bind you to doing some over delivering on some things as well, can't they? If you're that kind of person naturally.
So when I moved away from that, I needed to start from scratch. And my third mistake was the next one, and it wasn't the choice of the person, it was the role that I outsourced. And I needed somebody to get me out there in the world.
Yeah.
And writing my website's one thing, but it should really still be, in my view, in my speak. You know, but somebody saying, well, you have the right attention getter there, Lisa. You can't just say, hello, lovely, nice to see you. You've got to have the right attention getter, why we should talk to you, the people, the problems you solve. Yeah, it should be written like that, but it should be where people think that they've heard me speak, that they see my picture, that they can imagine me saying those words. And then another part of their role is all the social media platforms. And what I noticed was there was no traction. Absolutely. And I said to this person, this is what this is what I need. What do I want to get paid a month? And like when she told me a price, I said, that's not enough for what I need. But this is the outcome I want. I don't care if you do it in one day, a month. I'm not bothered. This is the outcome. So, return on investment. I think in the 10 months, I didn't get one outcome. One outcome. And but also any of the posts that were created by her were technically correct, but no traction. The minute I put one that I think, yeah, that looks all right to me, I've done my best, would get 10 likes or something. That was a lot for me at the time. It wasn't my, somebody else can't be my voice. Somebody else can't be my heart and that vibration, the beauty in firewalking, it's not the action, it's the intention. All along I've been talking about it, it's the intention that you do it with that gets the magic. Action alone gets your feet burnt. Action with intention gets you magic. And so
oh, wait. I think that is so good. I want to come back to that. I want to so just say that. So action alone.
Action alone get you burnt. Yeah.
I can't type as fast as my brain wants to go. Action plus intention gets results.
Get magical results. Magical results, which is why if I'm speaking at something, I will visualize the audience getting the outcome they want, not me being a brilliant mover and shaker on the stage.
That's so true. You have to.
I'll imagine my arms, I mustn't shake them, arms around the entire room and then being able to fall into them and fall back. I'll imagine them going out into the world feeling that they know just how awesome they are. Not BS awesome, like just that inner power that they've got. I'll imagine them going out and being that in the world, and I'll visualize it. And that's me.
Oh, lost sound. Has it come back?
Keeps moving.
That's
fueling my action, my opportunity with intention. So an intention isn't, I hope I'm good. That's ego. Ego. I hope I don't make myself look stupid. And so so in terms of those social media posts, somebody couldn't be my energy, my fuel, and even my haphazard, Lisa ways that wasn't perfect, attracted the right people. So, that last, and there was nothing wrong with the lady that did the work, nothing wrong. But when you live and breathe in quite a spiritual way of what vibration you put into something is what grows.
Yeah.
It's not just the action. Then you cannot be surprised. I cannot be surprised if somebody else is doing it. Then we're going to mirror their vibration. Does that make sense, or is it too
weird? It totally makes sense. I think I remember many years ago when I came to you for some sessions because I was at the agency. I was getting to the point where the business was growing, and I remember you were one of the speakers at the events that we used to run, and so I was running more events, but I hadn't really ventured into the world of workshops or proper speaking. I used to organize stuff and then stick my business partner at the front because I was too scared. I was always the one at the back, like meeting and greeting everybody and having fun and getting to know everyone, and everyone used to come to me, yet he was the one that we always put on stage and no one went to him, and he was always really so pissed off about that. I just still didn't have the confidence at that time to really get up at the front. And I remember I went to Lisa and said, I need help with this. And you really got me into the power of visualization. I remember you were like the very first person that really got me into visualizing the result and visualizing what it could be. And you did this really powerful meditation, which I'm sure you can remember because you brought it up when we were chatting the other day. I was out on your sofa and you were like taking me into this space where And you weren't actually talking about me, or you're standing at the front and you, oh, imagine how amazing it feels and all these people are loving you and you're signing books and blah blah. It wasn't. It was really imagine that you've got these lives in a room who are ready to change. And they're loving everything that you're saying because they can go and do something with it, and you're giving them all this love, and they're walking away and they're going and doing this with their businesses. And that actually was one of my big drivers for, I think, listening to the calling, because knowing the calling, listening to it, and then acting on the calling are very different things, aren't they? And so you were getting me to that point where I was ready to listen. And I mean, I can't thank you enough, because all the things that I'm doing now they stem back to that very first visualization, laying on your sofa, thinking, yeah, it is possible to support someone in feeling that way. So who do I need to be for them to feel that way, and for them to have that experience, and to go out into the world and be that brand that they want to see in the world? So from my heart to yours, thank you for being the fire starter for me. You were the igniter for me, for sure.
I think it's just when the right two souls come together at the right time, magic happens both ways, not just one way. And it takes me back. We've spoken about being speakers, and I remember because I've been a shy stripper, obviously not a real shy stripper.
You're in the shy stripper club.
Where you kind of say, well, I'm a speaker, but I better not tell lots of people in case they come and see me and I'm not very good. And I remember thinking that, and knowing what it was linked back to. It was me thinking that to be a speaker, you had to be part of an association. You had to have been trained to do it. You have to know the technical ways to do it, the way to stand on a stage and all of that kind of stuff that just wasn't, there is an actress in me, but it just wasn't in my heart to be it. And I really wanted to be a speaker, but it was all in my head. This is what you do, this is what you should do, and this is what other people do, and they're brilliant at it. And then when I trained with Peggy Dillon to be a firewalking instructor, just something happened inside me, not least because it reconnected my heart with me, because it had been shut down from when I was a child, through stuff that happened in my childhood, which we can talk about in therapy one day, which actually led me to doing what I'm doing today. Without those experiences, I wouldn't be, those were my training ground for this. But anyway, I nor did, when I was doing my public speaking, want to talk about traumas. I wanted to move people with mastery, not them hearing, I've survived this, therefore you can. I wanted to leave that where it belonged. Great training ground. Use it as fuel, but don't use it as content. I feel like you're going to write something good here.
I am. I'm just listening to all these golden nuggets. Like, how are you moving people with mastery? I think that's a beautiful phrase. It's a beautiful way of looking at it. When there's so many people that are, let's face it, right now, there are millions of people who are flooding the entrepreneurial world, just venturing into starting a business from home because maybe there aren't the opportunities anymore that there once were for work. And so they're looking to ways that they can go online. And so they're not necessarily even competing directly with you, but they are competing for the same eyeballs. They're competing for the same budget. They're competing for the same disposable income and the same amount of time. And so, more now than ever before, we've got to think about how how are we the masters of our brand, the masters of us? How are we really mastering that? Because, there could be somebody that comes up, that does go into your industry and starts competing with any of us, right? And the key thing is that those people, they only have to learn a few simple marketing and sales techniques, and they can look a lot bigger than you. Absolutely. And so you've got to really think right now is the best time to delve in and go, well, what is my superpower? What am I the master of? How can I be that brand I want to see in the world? And if I'm showing up as something that I wasn't necessarily in full flow and confident with before, well, what would it look like if I were? And what would be the results for all those lives if I could step up and really be the confident me doing the thing I'm being called to do. I always remember Judith Quinn, one of our Brand Builders Club members. She was one of the founding members about 3 years ago. And I remember her saying to me, but, you know, I work with these corporates and like they can't know about my woo-woo side. Like I can't bring that to them. And it was like she wasn't bringing her whole self to the table, because she was worried about, oh, well, I don't want to affect them, and what if I do this? And I think there is this, maybe it again comes down to the fear of disappointment, that fear of commitment to the idea, fear of commitment to the niche, or fear of commitment to the product. It's like, oh, you know, and then they take like a year to create it and birth it to the world, because it's almost looking for approval for everyone else before they go launch it. And then the time is done. The time is gone. You know, it can hold you back so much, can't it, really?
It can. And that thing about asking so many people, when I'm coaching them and say, right, this idea is still delicate. Whilst it's robust in your heart, it's still delicate. Don't take it to your friends and your family and ask them their opinion. They're not you. They weren't gifted with this purpose. It is yours. They're not going to understand it the way we're understanding it. Let's build it. Let's cement it in. Then you can share it. But right now, it's delicate. And so many people used to, they don't do it anymore because I don't let them, used to show, oh, I've spoken to so-and-so, they don't think it's a good idea. So I've thought of something else. What? And so, but yeah.
I hear that all the time. And it's like, well, who did you actually ask? Oh, my friend's down the pub. I asked my mum.
Bloke down the pub. But yeah, just going back a little bit about me being a shy stripper. I think it's when I did my firewalking training and connected with my heart, which is linking into what you just said about being the whole of me. And I realized that if I'm totally being myself and my intention is great and the impact I want to make is for the highest good of everybody else, and I need to not be a shy stripper anymore. And I need to trust myself, because being a shy stripper, I don't know if you like that metaphor, that analogy.
Well, I think you're coming up with a new fame name all by itself, really.
I think we're imagining tassels right now. I don't know, but when
there's a lot of money in that industry, a lot of passion. I'm not quite sure about the purpose.
But when you're like your client was saying, your brand builder was saying, not honouring all of herself, you can't be, your pieces can't make sense if you're leaving bits out. The whole picture can't make sense if you're leaving bits out, can it? And so, and when there's a deficit in what you're showing, people are suspicious of what they're not seeing. Don't you think? Yeah.
I really think, and it's like, I remember when I first delved into the world of NLP, and back in 2007 when I did my qualifications in it, and I remember the people that I was training with, I remember her saying, you know, like it's not okay to leak over everybody. And I remember thinking, well, what does that mean to leak all over everybody? But it's so true, isn't it? Doesn't matter. You could be holding it in. Everything's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. But you're just leaking this energetic doom everywhere. Yeah. And the thing is that when you don't bring yourself to your whole brand, when you don't bring yourself to the whole table, that leaks as well. And people, as you say, they wonder, well, what is it you're not telling me? What is, hang on, something doesn't feel right. And it's not that you've said anything good or bad, but there's a feeling that people get.
Yeah, there is, because we call it our sixth sense, our thoughts, feelings, actions, but we also, our unconscious mind communicates with us through our feelings. And so our mind's taking in all these bits of information that we're looking for congruences so that we can trust, or it can be myself, or those similarities. But then the mind will pick up some things not lined up here, all unconscious, not conscious. It hasn't got a full list of where the ticks are and where the gaps are. Yeah. And it sends us a feeling. We think, just can't trust. Because when we leave that bit out, we sense it, don't we? Yeah. But we think it's our gut instinct, but it isn't. It's our unconscious mind that's done all the analysis. It's checked for congruences, incongruences. It's picked one up, sent the alert up, caution. Yeah. Or sometimes you just get, this feels great. I'm just going to offer my whole self to this person. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about that, I always talk about the power of brand, in that, you can have a brand without having a business, but you can't have a business without having a brand. And your brand, if you want to be that most trusted, credible, reliable, loyal leader, then like you got to show up as all of that. There's that, you can't be leaving parts of yourself behind. There's a lot of people that they could, as you say, you can take the action, you can be running Facebook campaigns, you can be running YouTube ads, you can be sending emails coming at your yin yang, you can be doing all of those things. But if the energy behind the brand, if there's something missing, or you're not bringing your whole self to it, people are just going to see it, and they're going to feel it, they're going to sense it, and that's going to be really, people that have invested all this money on their branding, their website, all these campaigns and everything, and then they've got this disappointment. What I find usually, and now you've kind of labeled the unlabel of the disappointment thing, actually I think there's a lot of people that
Oh, you're frozen. Is it me? Have I got signal? Who froze? Was it me or you?
No, I think it's me. There's something that goes on around this kind of time in the marina. I think everybody just gets to the point of boredom threshold or something, and they all go online. I don't know, but
I don't know if I should start singing a song or holding the fort for a minute.
It was really funny when I interviewed Keith. Keith.
Oh, darling. Is Keith the chap that brought his guitar?
Yeah, we're going down.
The ship is sinking.
Yeah, just keep swimming. Listen, I mean, it's just been such an honor to play with you for all these years, and may we continue playing and singing and dancing and having fun and walking through fire together and climbing mountains and doing that for the rest of our lives, and to watch you blossom and how your business has really gone in a massive direction that you really visualized for yourself. And I couldn't be more pleased that you're the walking, talking example of exactly what you work with others to do. And so am I. I'm one of your good examples, I hope.
You're a very good example on every level.
Thank you. Well,
I've loved it. I've loved dancing with you as well, Sammy. And here's to another foxtrot.
Yes, here's to lots of foxtrots. Well, Lisa, how can people find out about you or take the next step, find out more about what you're up to? If you want to give me a web address or something, and I'll type it in.
Powerful Success.
Powerfulsuccess.co.uk.
I post lots of free videos.
Your videos are excellent.
Thank you. Oh, that means a lot, because you know what? I think I'm just a girl having a good crack at doing what I love, and hopefully make a difference.
You bring your whole self to it.
Oh, it's Power for Success.
Oh, Power for Success. Hang on.
Yeah.
It's not that, people. It's not that. Hang on. Beep, 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 beep.
Powerful Success is nice, though. We might just have rebranded.
a new name being bought tonight.
and say that again.
Quick, go grab it.
Grab it, yes. Powerful Success. Thank you, darling. I've loved it. So there's lots of videos on my website. There's some packages people can look at, things that will help them. And obviously a conversation with me is a pleasure. I mean, free.
It is always. Well, Lisa, thank you so much.
Right,
guys and girls, you heard it here, and I very much look forward to getting you back on the show to find out what did Lisa do next. I'd love for you to come back after everybody has pivoted, just to see what's happening in your world then. So I look forward to interviewing you next time.
Thank you, darling.
Mwah. All right then, guys and girls, we're going to be back tomorrow. It's the final day of the week tomorrow. My goodness, where did this week go? Like, it's just gone. So we'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. with our next amazing guest. For those of you that are in the Brand Builders Club, you have a success surgery call tonight with the amazing Joanna Howes. Joanna, she's gone in to businesses of all shapes and sizes and completely turned them around. So if you're thinking about how are you building your business, how are you growing it, have you got the right systems in place, then you want to show up for her session at 7 p.m. tonight. And I'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow live in this group at same time, same place. I will see you there. Lisa, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Mwah.
Bye, lovely.
Bye.